Ludington, Branch, and all of West Michigan. It's 8 o'clock. Good morning and welcome to Leading West Michigan, a show about success and featuring local leaders and people in local business. And now here's your host, Ryan Howe.
Good morning, everyone. We have a great show for you today. I'm Ryan Howe, founder of Summit Business Guides, where I help businesses with strategic and succession planning so they can grow their businesses faster than they ever thought possible. You can learn more at summitbusinessguides.com. So this show is all about learning about our guest leadership journey. And joining us today is Jody Maloney, the executive director for the Mason County Promise.
Yeah, I also run the College Access Network, which is a little known entity.
Oh, we want to talk about that later, too.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Absolutely. So we were talking earlier today. It was fall is definitely here while we were prepping to come in. And I think we landed on the term for brisk to refer for this morning. It was a little chilly.
It's a nice way to say cold.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. But at least we're still a few months away from that stuff that we don't talk about, which I
Four-letter word.
Exactly. Yep. So we'll get into more about the Promise and then the Action Network as well. I'm going to make sure we cover that. But before we get to all that, we kind of need to know a little bit about who you are. But where are you from?
Well, I consider myself a Youper, born and raised. And so I'm from the West End. For those of you on Facebook, you can kind of see on the hand. But I'm from Ontonagon County, which is at the foot of the Porcupine Mountains. And I grew up there in a small town called Greenland, which has probably got 150 people in it right now.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So,
I usually pride myself in saying I'm from Custer as being 277 of us over there. So, okay, you win today.
Yeah, it's a metropolitan area comparatively.
We have a blinky light over in Custer. So, no. So, as far as for school, where'd you go to school at? Were you at like a county school or what was it?
Well, we actually had 2 school districts in the county, which is amazing to think about now with how few people we had around. But I went to Ontonagon Area High School, which was about 15 miles away from my house. And so it's really relatable when I'm around here and I see Custer and how far kids have to go to get to school and how long those bus rides are. That's what we had.
So how many students did you have? Just for reference.
In my class, we had 40 when I graduated.
Okay.
There was kind of like a peak boom time where classes had 60 to 80 students when the paper mills were strong. But
okay, gotcha.
Yeah, our main business in Ontonagon was paper mill, and at one time they had a shipyard where they built ships, but that was gone by the 80s. So it was a real rural living kind of experience.
Yeah, that's I had 28 in my graduating class, including one foreign exchange student. So, again, you're just joining us. We're talking with Jody Maloney here on Leading West Michigan. So, what was it? I guess it's kind of hard to describe the differences, per se, if you didn't go to a larger school versus where you're at. But what was it like going to school? Basically, over in the West End, and again, the size of your school that you had.
Well, I think one of the things is that as a student, at least as a middle schooler, high schooler, you had to be involved in something because the teams needed you. I mean, I'm not sporty, but I was a basketball team manager because people needed people. And so I think growing up, something that I didn't have to learn, it was just kind of ingrained, is that you pitch in. And so, yeah, I feel like one of the things that I see with my own kids growing up here is that there are a lot of folks around, and sometimes they don't get included because there are so many people, and it's easy to just set folks aside. But it wasn't easy to do that when you don't have a lot of human capital, I guess.
Yeah, no, we one of the phrases that we use out in Custer is that we're too small for cliques.
Yeah.
It's basically everyone has their part they've got to play. If anything's happening, you've got to be a part of that. So I guess that you got to, basically lots of opportunity to try many different things. Mm-hmm. I guess would be another way of looking at that as well. So
yeah, I was in drama club. I mean, you name it, somehow I was loosely involved. Yearbook and things.
What was a play that you guys did?
We actually did the Phantom of the Opera. It was a off-Broadway version, and I had the lead role, which is crazy for me to think about because I don't know that I would ever get up in front of people and sing a solo now.
Are there video and or footage photos of this?
I'm sure there's a VHS tape still lingering at my mom's house, but that's about it.
Okay, Mom.
I hope anyway.
Mom, if you can find a way to post that to Facebook for us, we would love that. So, all right. So we got through school there, and did you enjoy school? Was it something you enjoyed having to go to?
I did enjoy school. I enjoyed especially like my friend group. I think that's why all high schoolers go to school, is because they're friends, or for the most part they're friends. But I was a anxiety driven student, I would say, and so I really had a hard time if I didn't get A's, so I didn't always enjoy school. Sometimes it was more about like getting the right answer. And I'm not gifted in math, and so algebra was always a challenge for me. So those of you out there who can relate to me, hands in the air, algebra.
There's a lot of hands that just went up. Yeah. And you're driving, put the hand back on the wheel, please.
Right.
No. So, okay. So again, getting through school though, again, you had your friends, but you were able to, but you did well in school.
Yeah, I definitely did.
And how did that help you as far as for your next steps you went after school?
I got a few scholarships, and I think one of the things that I learned growing up, so my dad was a logger. He actually went to Michigan Tech for about a year for nuclear engineering, and then was like, enough of this, I'm going back to work. And my mom was a teacher, and she taught until I was probably in upper elementary, and then our school got consolidated, and so she didn't have a job anymore and had to kind of reinvent herself. And so what I learned from that is that, one, college is helpful for income, but two, I need to have options. Mm-hmm. And with my dad, when the paper mill went down, there weren't a lot of options to make money. And
he didn't just roll back into nuclear physics or anything?
No,
Oh, okay.
That just wasn't, he didn't have that degree, and so he couldn't. And so I think, for me and my siblings, I'm sure it was also the case that college was kind of what we were going to do. And so I went to Northern, which at that time was kind of like where everybody went if they didn't go to community college. And because I kind of did well in school, my teachers directed me to go to college. So I went to Northern Michigan, and I was there for about a year and a half. And
what was your focus when you got there?
I thought journalism or communication. I wasn't really sure on my path. So I do value right now, like, school counselors do such a better job than they did back in the day of helping students to find their path before they graduate from high school. Our school counselor basically was there to, sit with the kids when they got in trouble and say hi once in a while. And so I had no idea what to do. So that's why I think I was undeclared at the time, undecided when I started, and didn't really have a clear path or direction.
That's going back to the counselors there. It's very similar in line with like human resources in business, is that I want to say it was like again, just my experience, I want to say anything against administrators and how they handled it, because, I was 14 or whatever. Like, I didn't know everything that was going on, even though I thought I did. But when I look back at the way the transition that's occurred in both of those positions, they've completely shifted their overall focus from basically developing that human capital, whichever way you want to go about it, and making sure we can maximize them. I love one of the phrases I love for once you get out of the guidance counselor world, but it heads out into the universities, is that talent pipeline coordinator. Sure. I think that's absolutely fantastic way of looking at that, is because the first things first is, what's your talent? What's your, what can we, what are you really good at? And then let's see how we can then, get you in the right spots there. So when you got to, so you said a year and a half at Northern, and then what?
And then I was like, I had some personal things happen, and I was like, school is not for me right now, but I always had my dad in the back of my mind, like, and the financial issues that we had growing up. And so I knew I had to go to school, but I wasn't going to stay at Northern. It wasn't a healthy environment for me. And so I lit out to the Twin Cities and became a nanny for a while. And after about 3/4 of a year of that, I decided I was going to go back to school. And so I actually started at Grand Valley.
Okay.
Yeah.
Chris's stomping grounds. Okay, so Grand
Valley.
So what's that? There you go. So that's interesting. That's basically to head the direction. So it was west, back, hook around, and then make your way south there. So what was that like in that? So you actually downsized as far as the metropolitan area when you went to Grand Rapids for the most part.
From Minneapolis, yeah, definitely.
Okay.
And I will say that I missed Prince, but we did get to catch him at a concert later in GR, so that was a good thing. But yeah, and I don't know if I really felt like it was downsizing. We spent a little time in the city, but I had to live on the outskirts in kind of a suburb because the city of Minneapolis, I stayed there for a little bit, but it was too expensive on a nanny salary. And so so when I went to Grand Rapids, I actually moved in with my sister outside of Grand Rapids in Grand Haven and commuted every day to Grand Valley. And so that transition wasn't hard. Eventually I did move to Grand Rapids and lived right on Wealthy Street, which I loved. And my husband, actually, I met him at Grand Valley as well. And we love Grand Rapids. It's a great city.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So what was that like, moving in with Sis?
She was the sister I didn't get along with, so it was interesting.
Okay.
But one of the things that she did was she got me into retail management, and so I worked about 30 to 35 hours a week while I was going to school at Grand Valley. And
Where'd you work?
Well, funny enough, it's a place that doesn't exist anymore, but it was Elder Bierman. Okay. And when I moved back here, I also knew one person, well, actually two people in town, and one of them was the store manager from Elder Bierman, Marilyn Carey. She is former owner of Blue Moon, so I knew her and her daughter, and she was my, I think of her as a mentor, personally. She just was such a hardworking, fierce kind of leader, but also found ways to be compassionate and caring and personalize your experience in retail management. And that doesn't always happen in kind of Elder Bierman was, if you're not familiar with it at all, it was kind of a Macy's kind of environment, so a bigger department store.
Yeah, we're continuing our conversation with Jody Maloney here on Leading West Michigan. And yeah, that retail, that's especially management, that it's one of those things, like I've always said, if you want to be in business, I've always said you should teach. But I've also said if you want to be a solid manager, you need to spend time in retail, because you are right there in the mix between customers and your staff, managing all the order. I mean, you're really basically just running the show there for a little bit. So how was that as far as for cutting your teeth there?
I thought it was great. I had a lot of work to do, and I was never bored, and I was constantly meeting new people and learning about people's really creative ways of complaining and addressing complaints had to be even more creative, right? And so
Oh, goodness, creative ways of complaining. I'm going to find a way to use that in one of my next sessions. That's great.
But okay. I think it was really helpful because one of the things that we don't or didn't have a lot of growing up was diversity. And so in Muskegon, there's a lot of folks from a lot of places and a lot of backgrounds and a lot of temperaments. And so I got to really meet a lot of wonderful people and just learn about them, even through working. People like to talk, and so in retail management, you almost have to do like a mini interview with folks to find out what they're there for, what they want, and find a way to make their experience positive and real in order to get them to purchase things.
No, absolutely. And again, I'm not end of the day there, especially when it comes to any working environment there, that's so key, is just spending some time, whatever you can, peel off a few minutes, in that work week, just be able to have a conversation with folks. And amazingly enough, they'll tell you what they're looking for if you ask them. It's always been my experience. So what did you end up getting as far as for schooling going on down there in GR? Where'd you end up landing?
Yeah, so I was actually a double major in French and English literature. So
that's a bit different than where we start. Okay.
Yeah, it is a little different. And I still think that one of the things that I lacked even through college was like really helpful career advising. And I feel like if students had that experience today, and hopefully they don't, they should be very aggressive about finding their path and knowing their strengths, so that when they get into the world of work, they can really maximize their potential. I didn't do that. I stumbled a lot. And so I chose what I knew I was good at. I was good at writing. I was good at languages. And so I just kind of followed that path. And I had a wonderful time. I got to go to France and spend some time there going to school. And so I can't complain about that. And I think a liberal arts degree, we play those down a lot because they're not, directly tied to anything besides education. But I think they can be highly functional in the world of work.
Yeah, the liberal arts, they do get a bad rap at times like that. And like with anything though, you're talking about is, the degrees, they open doors. That's the big piece of it there. You are demonstrating to a hiring official that you were able to set a goal and accomplish it. That's a big piece of that. On top of that, you also get some other information there that, hey, okay, they tend to also, they probably speak French. If I see French lit coming across, it's like, okay, there's probably something there with that. So with that, you spent your time in college. Would you say, how well did that prepare you for your next steps where you landed at?
I think amazingly well. Between the work experience I had, I had other jobs. Well, maintaining that job, I did all the work study opportunities I could have because I was a broke college student trying to afford living, and so I tutored. I worked in cafeterias. I feel like the one thing that college did for me, besides give me the ability to think and write in concrete ways, and in ways that would help me be more marketable later, was to help me connect with a lot of kind and helpful folks and teach me to be brave and ask questions in a world where I didn't feel very, I said I was an anxious student, and so I don't always feel like putting myself out there is easy or fun. But college makes you do that. It makes you be uncomfortable and learn how to navigate that. I think the retail management piece was also really helpful because a lot of my jobs have been in education management. And if you don't treat students like human beings and learn how to care about them and ask them questions and find what they actually need, you're not serving them.
Oh. Absolutely. That's kind of why I wanted to pull that out from you. So your college experience, everything you had to do as a working student, as where you developed a lot of your grit and a lot of your, where you cut your teeth on a lot of what it is to make things work in a professional environment. And that's one of the things where, I talk with people about college. Even if you don't know what you want to do, still, if you have the opportunity to go, you should go to college. Get those general classes out of the way, spend some time with those, because what you're doing is you are practicing. I know it seems weird to say that you're gaining knowledge, but you're also practicing on goal setting, following through on your promises. Again, your critical thinking skills and writing. But for me, I had zero idea about what I wanted to do when I grew up. And I had to leave here to go in the military. And I still had 4 jobs in the military. And like I say, my master's is in logistics and supply chain management. And, I help businesses around here. I don't really focus on logistics all that much anymore. So, but it does open doors. And you do have to go through the process of, again, like I said, critical thinking and writing. And the difference between folks who have been to college and their ability to communicate, there's a difference. There's a marked difference on that. So, again, we've been have been talking with Jody Maloney from Mason County Promise here a little bit, learning about her time basically on the west end of the UP. They took the longer route between to get down to GR. It's a little stopover in the Twin Cities. So we're getting ready to head towards our first break right now, or in a couple seconds. And when we get back, kind of want to talk, we would like to spend some time hearing about, okay, after college and the work, you got your husband. Maybe we want to talk a little bit about that guy for a second too, but you went and got married, but then what it looked like when, you left college and what was, what you're doing at that point, because that journey is probably the biggest thing that we're looking for on here is how that journey from, and we've been building kind of the profile here of, okay, building a little grit, getting some experience, and then you're on your way to basically your next jobs and see how that prepared you for where you're going. So again, you've been listening to Leading West Michigan on 102.7 WMOM at home on your Amazon Alexa or Google Home smart devices, streaming online at WMOM.FM, and live video streams on the 102.7 WMOM Facebook page and WMOM YouTube channel. So let's take our first break and we'll get back. We'll get into those jobs.
Victoria's Jewelry in downtown Ludington is the only place you'll want to shop for birthstones, necklaces, earrings, and rings, and all of those sparkling accessories that will make that special person in your life smile. The birthstone for September is the mesmerizing deep blue hue of the sapphire and is a gemstone that has captivated humanity for centuries. But did you know that the natural sapphire can come in every color of the rainbow, and they are available at Victoria's Jewelry? Known for its remarkable hardness, second only to diamonds, Victoria's Jewelry has a selection of sapphires that will make the perfect gift for someone in your life, or something that you can add to your collection of fine jewelry. When you purchase from Victoria's Jewelry, you know you're purchasing jewelry that is unique, that is of high quality, and jewelry that you'll want to show off to your friends and family. You can get any of Victoria's jewelry customized just for you or your loved one in all price ranges. Whether if it's new or an item from the Victoria's Jewelry estate case, you'll be sure to find something perfect. Plus, Mike has over 40 years of experience with jewelry repairs and custom work, which is done right in store. So trust Victoria's Jewelry with one of your biggest assets. Check out Victoria's Jewelry website or stop into Victoria's Jewelry on South James Street in downtown Ludington today.
School is starting soon. Online homework, research, and assignments are right around the corner. You need a quality internet connection backed up by great customer support. Don't let your internet connection hurt your grades this fall. Call SyncWave for fast local internet and to see if your home is serviceable. Contact SyncWave at 231-845-1065 or visit synkwave.com. That number again, 231-845-1065.
This is Todd Reed. We want to invite you to visit our downtown photography gallery and to check out our new children's book, They Call Me Eagle Eyes, a picture book for all ages. Take a visual journey with us and earn your eagle eyes.
Mom's Fridge Magnets are community calendar announcements presented by Watson Motors, West Michigan, CMH, McGee Insurance, and Lakeshore Automotive and Tire. Another fridge magnet comes your way next.
Our service team at Watson Motors in Ludington and Manistee will treat your vehicle like one of our own. We're by your side whenever you need car service or repair work done. Watson Motors in Ludington is located at the corner of Dennis and US 10 and in Manistee on Parkdale Road across from Big Al's Pizza.
Did you know getting regular oil changes improves your vehicle's mileage and improves your engine's performance? Clean oil is essential for keeping your engine and all the engine controls running smoothly. Stop by Lakeshore Automotive and Tire in Ludington to have your oil changed.
Join us Saturday, September 23rd from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Sunday, September 24th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. for the annual Fall Fest Arts and Crafts Show. Artisans gather on the Village Green to showcase their products. Stop by and do some shopping. If your group or nonprofit organization has an announcement that you would like others to know about, reach out to us and we'll add it for free to the Fridge Magnet program thanks to Lakeshore Automotive and Tire, McGee Insurance, West Michigan, CMH, and Watson Motors.
It's Leading West Michigan, and our special guest today is Jody Maloney, Mason County Promise Director. Now here's your host, Ryan Howe, on 102.7 Mom FM.
All right, welcome back. Again, I'm Ryan Helm, Summit Business Guides, and we're continuing our conversation with Jody Maloney, again, from Mason County Promise and Action Network. We're going to get that as well. But so before the break, we had just finished up schooling, and we were talking about, okay, what's the transition now into after college life? So what that look like for you?
Right. Well, as a French and English major, you can imagine, like, it's not always a natural transition unless you're teaching.
There wasn't like 400 jobs waiting for you?
No,
Oh,
not
okay.
really.
All right.
And so I stayed in retail management for a while, but then I had a child. And of course, I had some warning that was going to happen, but I also had to plan. And one of the things that I learned as a retail manager is, you don't make enough money to pay for daycare, even when you're working full time. So I decided to move back home where I had help and where I knew life was cheaper. And so I moved home and I substitute taught for a while and until I essentially found a full-time job. And so one of my first jobs was an AmeriCorps worker, and I worked in education, which I had told myself that I wasn't going to do because of my experience with my mom growing up, losing her job. I just didn't think of teaching as a reliable profession.
For those that don't know, what is AmeriCorps?
So AmeriCorps is basically public service that you do through the federal government. You get paid at poverty wages, and you can serve up to 2 years. And at the end of that service term, and basically you serve in jobs that are are needed roles, but the organization you're serving for can't afford to pay somebody to do it. And so when you're done, you get an education award, which as a student or former student, I had debt. And so it helped me to pay down some of that student debt. But I think one of the things it did was catalyze my knowledge that I was good in a classroom and that I was good with students, because the work that I did was in a Head Start. And I connected high school students to Head Start kids as mentors. And so it was fun. I got to work with students of all ages, which served me because when my AmeriCorps term was done, then I was able to get a job with MSU Extension as a 4-H program development leader. And so I worked for MSU basically full-time until they made most of those rural jobs for Extension part-time. And from there, I had to regroup. And anyone who's lived rurally knows that you have to regroup occasionally because opportunities don't last forever, even when you think you have a reliable job with an institution that's been there forever. The future is never a guaranteed sort of situation. So at that point, I had a lot of experience in the classroom, a lot of experience doing youth development, and a position opened up with Keweenaw Indian community, which is it was the closest tribal community to my home. And they had a college and a daycare center, and they also had a federal Even Start program, which actually worked with adult students who were working on their GEDs or just getting, transitioning to college, and their children. So it was a 2-gen program, which is really interesting because now in Promise Zones, they're just starting to talk about like how do we support parents who are
for sure, yeah,
pursuing their degrees. And I found that really relatable because as a new parent right out of college, my husband was still in college when we had our first son, and it was very, very challenging, and we didn't have the option to stay around, or there were no daycares on campuses or anything like that. And so this was kind of an innovative program, and I loved working there, but the federal grants went away after a couple of years. And so at that point, I found a position at Finlandia University running a federal TRIO program because I had that federal grant management experience, and I had classroom experience and student experience. And I had actually worked at Finlandia as a French teacher in a different federal program that they had called Student Support Services. And so I was able to transitioned to Finlandia when the federal funds dried up for that grant program, and started as the TRIO Student Support Services Director. And I think that job probably was one of the positions in my life that spoke to me the most for my, knowing my talents of working with students.
Yeah, we're continuing our conversation with Jody Maloney from Mason County Promise. So can you expand on that just a little bit as far as one that was the best fit for you? Or
Well, so TRIO Student Support Services, really the purpose of that program is to help students who are in some way marginalized find their place on campus and understand that their college material, give them the supports they need to succeed and thrive, really. And so it was a program that offered not just academic support, but personal counseling, and it offered career services. And so those are some of the things that I feel like had I known existed when I started college, it might have made the 6-year bachelor's degree a little bit shorter. But I really felt like that was a good place for me. And Finlandia was an interesting institution because it, even though it's in the UP, it has kind of a cultural niche in that it has a Finnish heritage focus. And they had a lot of international students and students that they recruited. A lot of kids from actually, I shouldn't say kids, they were adults, but students from Detroit area who chose to go there. And so we had a good mix and a diverse mix of students to serve.
That, again, with that TRIO work there, there's something to be said for having a cheerleader, having somebody there that's got your back on those things no matter what. And also the person that not necessarily to open doors for you, but to show you where the door is. Yeah. Like you were saying, if you'd have known a few of these doors existed, might have had a different impact on, where you're at. So, but as again, someone has to go and, break through that fresh packed snow first. Someone's got to do that. So in this case, it was you. So, all right. So Finlandia, going through that route there, what was next on your list?
Well, nothing was next on my list, but unfortunately, life is interesting in that even if things might not be on your list, you might not be able to stay in the same place forever. And so my husband was working as our local librarian in Ontonagon County, and we kind of got to a point, I had mentioned that the local industries had closed down, and so millage rates were not what they once were. And he had one employee, and his options were to cut his $9 an hour salary so that he could retain the employee or let the employee go. And I said to him, these are not choices that you should have to make. And so he started looking around the state for a library position, and he found one here in Ludington.
Oh.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Right across the street.
Right across there. Okay.
So when he found that position, we actually moved back to Grand Rapids and commuted here until we could find a home, until I found work. And the work that I found was at Ferris. So I transitioned to an academic advisor role. So it was sort of already in my wheelhouse. But the neat thing about that program was I worked in the retention and student services department, and it was for students who wouldn't normally be admissible because of their GPAs, and they needed a lot of support to be able to stay at Ferris.
So support as far as extra time with tutors, things of that nature, is that?
We had a lot of students who were first-generation students as well, so they needed connection to resources all across campus, and they needed human beings to go to be able to say, hey, there's an issue here, and I don't know how to navigate it.
So a big portion, again, so it's a different version kind of what you're doing up
at
north.
Finlandia, yeah.
But more specific about in that gap there. And I can imagine that. And again, as we look at your journey, as we're going through all these different pieces here, you've been slowly building out where you started with your mom, like as a teacher, I want nothing to do with that.
Right.
And then you basically are making the transition over to, okay, well, I don't want to teach, but I want to help people who want to be in front of teachers. Okay, I can kind of do some of that stuff. And then just by, our good luck here, and again, unfortunately for your husband, but basically making the transition down here, and you're able to land in another position that further, I want to say, narrowed your niche, but your focus on things to where you're actually helping those people who, again, as first generation, that will go to they can't talk to their parents about, hey, what's this mean like to go to the college, or how do we do this? They may never have had to really think about what studying was before. Just making simple things in that transition. So so with that. Getting ready to head into our next break here in a second. So when we get back, I want to talk about, how that set everything up, and then move on to where you're currently at, what that looks like. So again, you're listening to Leading West Michigan on 102.7 WMOM, at home on your Amazon Alexa or Google Home smart devices, streaming online at WMOM.FM, and live video streams on the 102.7 WMOM Facebook page and the WMOM YouTube channel. So let's take our next break, and we'll talk more later.
Are you ready for the 3rd annual Mason County Prepare Fair? Come out to Walmart in Ludington on September 9th from noon to 3 to learn about how you can prepare for emergencies, explore emergency response vehicles, and meet local vehicle first responders like the Coast Guard, firefighters, Mason County Police, and even the Mason County Road Commission. Bring the family for tons of free preparedness items while supplies last, and explore the awesome vehicles that make our community what it is today. So come out into the Walmart parking lot on September 9th from noon to 3.
Hey, this is Kim and Kelly from Sister Bees, and we have a big announcement that we can't wait to share with you.
We now offer Michigan-made specialty mead at the Sister Bees Boutique. What is mead? It's a beverage made of honey. It's fermented with yeast. It's often called honey wine. Once fermented, sweet fruit, grains, and other spices are often added.
In fact, mead could be the oldest drink in the world, enjoyed by the Queen of Sheba and King Solomon.
So buzz on into the Sister Bees Boutique. We're located right on South James Street, and we're open Monday through Saturday, 10 to 5.
The store offers fun home decor, products crafted using the beeswax. We have local specialty gift boxes and free tasting of honey mustards, creamed honey, and more.
And once again, come check out our new mead selection. You don't have to be a royalty to enjoy this ancient beverage.
Sister Bees looks forward to seeing you soon.
stroke can happen to anyone. During a stroke, every minute counts. Call 911 at the first sign of a stroke. Don't wait and don't drive yourself or a loved one. Recently recognized with the Joint Commission's primary stroke certification, Corewell Health's Ludington Hospital is integrated with Michigan's largest comprehensive stroke center. Learn the signs of a stroke and get more information at spectrumhealth.org/stroke.
Hi, West Michigan. Are you looking for a trustworthy construction company to help you with your home? This is Christian Vogel of Matthew 6 Construction. Our team can be counted on to be safe in your home while completing quality work with integrity. Our communication will be thorough from start to finish. We're great at transforming exterior spaces with new windows, doors, siding, decks, and patios. We're remodeling indoor spaces such as kitchens, bathrooms, or finishing basements. We even specialize in creating that extra space you've been hoping for, like an addition for your growing family or garage to keep all your outdoor equipment protected from the elements. We would love the opportunity to work with you to make your vision a reality. Call us today at 231-233-0566. That's 231-233-0566. With over 30 years of experience and a member of the Lakeshore Home Builders Association, Matthew 6 Construction, where excellence is expected.
You're listening to Leading West Michigan with host Ryan Howe, speaking with this week's guest, Jody Maloney, Mason County Promise Director. Now, more of the show on 102.7 Mom FM.
All right, welcome back. And again, before the break, we were talking with Jody here, finishing up the student services at Ferris.
Yeah.
And now we're on to, okay, how did that transition into or prepare you for, get you in front of the folks from Mason County Promise?
Yeah, it's one of those things, again, where I wouldn't ever leave if the environment was perfect. But unfortunately, for anybody who goes to Big Rapids at all in any frequency, you know that it's over an hour commute one way. And in the winter, it's a little tricky. And so after 5 years of that, I saw that this amazing role as the Promise and College Access Network opened up. And I thought, that's probably something that I have the skills to do. And it looked like I was going to be able to support students and to really help them to pay for a college degree, which in my brain was a small miracle to do for one person, let alone a whole county of people.
Yeah, it's amazing that, and I love the Promise. We'll get into more of that here too. But again, for me, I went in the military to pay for my schooling, and the idea that Promise, exists, everything, I think is just another opportunity we have for, young men and women to be able to, get that degree, whatever that piece of paper looks like, to help them open some doors, specifically back here as well. So, how'd that look as far as sort of the interviewing, and how did you even get in front of that? That's interesting.
Well, I sent in my resume, right?
Okay.
So that's the key to getting your foot in the door at all. And then we interviewed with a board, or I shouldn't say I interviewed with a board. There were a lot of folks there. The Promise Board has 11 members. And I had the opportunity to meet Monica Schuyler at that time, and she's a wonderful human being. For anybody out there who hasn't met her, take the time.
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah. And so in interviewing, Monica primarily asked the questions, and we talked about my experiences at Ferris. And one of the things that I think that they liked that I did, in addition to running federal grant budgets, which would, they knew I had experience working with entities like the state of Michigan. They also, I think, liked that I had a lot of experience working with rural students and with students who were low income. And, the Promise funds education, but it's not the only thing that the Promise and the College Access Network do. They really focus on how do we get more students to go to college? How do we create that environment where they feel like they're college material? And how do we help the outcomes improve in terms of completing a credential? Because it's not just about going to college. If I had stopped out that year and a half in, I would probably still be a nanny and probably still be scraping by. And so I think that, life experience, work experience, all of those things helped me to land that role.
Oh, that's great. And again, that's part of this thing we're talking about here. Again, for those just joining us, we're continuing our conversation with Jody Maloney of Mason County Promise. And yeah, every step you took prepares you for this position that was there. So now you're hired. What's that? What is that like starting this thing off and saying, hey, folks, like what did you have to do? Something brand new, starting it off here.
Yeah, well, I thankfully had Monica, who had done a lot of the legwork to get the promise initially established at West Shore, but a lot of the policies and procedures and processes were basic. And so, the board has been really helpful in working with me to set goals for the organization. Like we'd like to see 30% of our students graduate. And we're almost there, but we're not there yet. And so we'd love to see 100% of them graduate, obviously. But like realistically, and looking at the data, that was the goal that the board chose. And then the College Access Network, our main focus in partnering with the Promise of late has been improving FAFSA completion rates. Because FAFSA is the key to getting the Promise. FAFSA is the key to getting any financial aid, really. And now Michigan is building up more scholarships tied to FAFSA for young people to use at college. So there's lots of free money attached to FAFSA, but if students can't complete it or aren't reminded multiple times to complete it and supported in that completion, they're going to have a really hard time moving forward after high school.
Yeah. So, yeah, for sure. I mean, that's... Again, and it's an awful lot for an 18-year-old to basically have to navigate the federal bureaucracy. Mm-hmm. It's a whole different world. There's folks it's literally their entire life doing that. So so when you first started stopping out at schools, and you're like, hey, guidance counselor or whoever, hey, here's this thing that want your help with. What was that like as far as now that they had you as a touch point?
For me, it was really fascinating because of how truly helpful the guidance counselors are.
Okay.
But it also, I started at the end of 2019, so I got a couple of months to basically learn a few faces and make a few connections, and then COVID hit. So everything that we did, including board meetings, had to go online, as folks know who were in the world at that time. And so it was really interesting to just be, in digital communication with folks and establish relationships for the better part of a year by not going to schools and not seeing students' faces. And I think that is still a challenge for me because I don't feel like the schools have been able to open up to the degree that they once were.
Okay. What do you mean? I guess could you maybe tease that out a little bit more? Like, what do you mean by that?
Well, I think, there was always that students needed to be protected and, volunteers need to be screened. That piece has always been there, but I think the piece that's changed since COVID is that there's just not as many outside entities going into schools to provide programming. And so really just last year is when I got into classrooms to start meeting students again.
So what you're saying is that people may be leveraging too much of email and or Zoom and or other stuff now, when really what would be beneficial for the students is to work with the administration and get people back in and shake hands and get to know the students. Is that what you're saying?
Gen Z is highly relational.
Okay.
They love meeting people. They love connecting with people. They love making fun of people. But I think they really depend on adults being present for them. And thankfully, we were able to get back into classrooms last year, and we started a program with the ninth graders. And when I say we, myself, Annie Jacobson, and Darby Johnson from West Shore started a College Connections program with the ninth graders at Mason County Eastern. And that was just a beautiful experience to help more students understand that they are college material, but to connect them to professors and faculty at West Shore as well. And I think that's really important and something that, there have been a few things that have gone away because of COVID, and I don't think that connections between high schools and colleges should be one of those things that go away.
Is that so? Again, I talk with superintendents. I'm on the board at Mason County Eastern. Is that something that you would recommend the agencies or the folks basically reaching out to the administration, or would you say the administration should be taking a look at everything and reaching out?
I wouldn't saddle administration anywhere with another role. I would say that if you want to be a part of the school community, you have to, one, let folks know how you can be helpful, and two, actually follow through and be helpful by connecting with them, reaching out in any way that you can.
Wait, you mean words aren't enough?
I don't think words or emails are enough, no.
Okay. So Yeah, that's interesting with the as far as that connection that you had out there, Mason County Eastern. That's again, it's going to be those innovative ideas, which really are just going back to basics, getting people in front of people and shaking hands and getting to know each other, is what's going to be the main driver of whatever evolution that needs to occur, or to even, I want to say, get us back on track where we were prior to COVID, but where we really need to be at for Gen Z.
Yeah.
And for those areas. So, all right. So getting ready to head into our final break.
Okay.
And, when we get back, I'd love to hear you chat a little bit more about, what's going on with the Promise, what we have to look, in store for us over the next year or so. Any chance you want to talk about thank yous, things of that nature.
Sure.
So, again, you've been listening to Leading West Michigan on 102.7 WMOM. At home on your Amazon Alexa or Google Home smart devices, streaming online at WMOM.FM, and live video streams on the 102.7 WMOM Facebook page and the WMOM YouTube channel. So, again, heading into that last break. And when we get back, I do want to talk about the College Access Network as well, along with the Promise.
Okay.
Great.
Do you enjoy refunds on ATM withdrawal fees, building savings automatically, no monthly maintenance fees, and free digital banking? Well, Safe Harbor Credit Union offers a free checking account that pays 5% APY on balances up to $15,000. You can open your account within minutes. Innovative checking built on traditional values. Free Kasasa Cash rewards you for supporting your community. Some key features include high dividends, refunds on ATM withdrawal fees, no monthly maintenance fees, and no minimum balance requirements. To learn more, check out our website at safeharborcu.org or come visit us at our office at 5511 US 10. Member, owner, neighbor. Here, you're one and the same. Safe Harbor Credit Union.
It's starting to be that time of the year again. Pencils and books, apples for the teacher, and new school clothes. But wait, there's still lots of summer weather left, and the Cedar Chest Consignment Shop has the clothes for summer and back to school and everything in between. We have beachwear, sunglasses for the hot summer days, and hoodies and jeans for when the sun goes down. Whatever you need, the Cedar Chest has it, and prices that are easy as the dog days of summer. So be sure to dress your best for less at the Cedar Chest in beautiful downtown Ludington.
We're so excited for you to discover Yada Yada Resale. We are a resale store nestled on US 10, right next to Ludington Meat Company. We sell a variety of home goods, furniture, clothing, toys, seasonal decor, and more, with all the proceeds going directly to Covenant Christian School. So come on by, stop on in, or donate your gently used items. We have something for everyone. We're open 12 to 6, Monday through Saturday.
Looking for events and happenings in the area? Look no further than Mom's Fridge Magnets, presented by Watson Motors, West Michigan CMH, McGee Insurance, and Lakeshore Automotive and Tire. Another fridge magnet comes your way next.
Is your vehicle getting poor gas mileage? Are your tires tread wearing fast or uneven? How about vibrating in the steering wheel or floorboard when you're speeding up? Have the technicians at Lakeshore Automotive and Tire do a tire balance on your vehicle.
At Watson Motors, we understand your time is valuable. If you prefer to do the process from home, you can start with a trade-in appraisal or a finance application and purchase online. You can even get your vehicle delivered to your home. If at any point you decide you're more comfortable with one of our team members by your side, we're open to pick up where you left off. Watson Motors is located in Ludington at the corner of US 10 and Dennis Road, and in Manistee on Parkdale Road across from Big Al's Pizza.
By popular demand, the Pentwater Farmers Market will reopen for one last time for the fall season harvest. Pentwater residents and visitors have requested one more day for the Pentwater Farmers Market season. We encourage all to see the market offerings on Thursday, September 21st on the Village Green in Pentwater from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. This is a fantastic time to visit Pentwater as the annual Fall Fest Art, Craft, and Antique Fair will fall on Saturday and Sunday. See you in Pentwater. If your group or nonprofit organization has an announcement that you would like others to know about, reach out to us and we'll add it for free to the Fridge Magnet program thanks to Lakeshore Automotive and Tire, McGee Insurance, West Michigan, CMH, and Watson Motors.
It's Leading West Michigan, and our special guest today is Jody Maloney, Mason County Promise Director. Now here's your host, Ryan Howe, on 102.7 Mom FM.
Okay, welcome back. Again, I'm Ryan Howe. We're on to the final segment with Jody Maloney, Mason County Promise and College Action Network.
College Access Network, yeah. So
I'm about action. Sorry about college access. My bad. Okay.
Access will eventually lead to action.
Fair enough. All right, so let's hear about this. What is this?
Well, one of the things I mentioned FAFSA completion as a focus, but one of the things that Michigan has put forward as a focus is graduating 60% of our population with some sort of college credential by 2030. In Mason County, we'd need, based on our current rates of graduation, college going, we need about 90% of our high school graduates to go to college to be able to reach that 60 by 30. And so what we found is about 55% of our college or our high school grads transition to college within a year. And from that, around half graduate. So it's about 30% of our folks who obtain a degree eventually. And so I think that one of the things that in Mason County, one of the reasons that the College Access Network and the Promise are focusing on boosting the FAFSA is because we haven't been able to have the conversation about college being affordable for more than really the existence of the Promise. Mm-hmm. Even if you have financial aid, a lot of those students who have financial aid have to pay for life. And so I think that for me, the passion has been really working with our local counselors and finding ways to, offer more supports for FAFSA completion, because that leads to college access. It leads to completion of a college credential if people can afford college.
Yeah, that's one of those unfortunate things that are out there is that since, again, and this is not a thing against federal government or anything, but when they tend to get involved with things in open access, it tends to raise the prices on stuff. Mm-hmm. It's just the nature of the beast. Yes. It doesn't matter what it is. It's just the way the government tends to work, and it's not a bad thing, a good thing. It just is a thing. But yeah, for folks in rural areas, it's very challenging because as far as wage inflation, things don't really keep up everywhere else.
Right.
So you're stuck paying the rates that are for places with a higher standard of living. So yeah, being able to have the access, doing those things. Again, I was a Pell Grant guy in the military.
Me too.
Yep. So took full advantage of those things. So again, I love the work on that. How about with we're at Mason County Promise. What do we have to look forward to in the coming year?
Well, we just added an educational supplies award to help more students. Students have to qualify by doing things they would normally do to succeed in school, like taking first year seminar and passing it. But that is one way that we can support students who don't benefit directly from the Promise Scholarship because they have federal financial aid. So that's something that's brand new, and our board is talking about how do we grow, because it looks like our tax capture, which is money that the state, would normally keep in Lansing, it's coming back to Mason County. It looks like that's going to grow. So how do we do this strategically so that when the money arrives, we're ready to roll with it?
So what's some of that look like for you as far as being able to get out and grow?
Well, the future is not guaranteed, so we have to be really mindful of that funding and what that might be. But a few of the things that the board is going to be talking about in this upcoming month is, how do we better support students? Okay. And how do we help them connect with their greater success?
So is the board asking for surveys to go out? Are you having to talk with counselors? Like, how are you getting that information?
Well, we actually have a school counselor on our board, Joan Vidak from Mason County Central, and we have a teacher from Custer from Mason County Eastern, Dina Thurston, on the board, and so they're going to be a part of the conversation. We have lots of local folks from across the county who are participating in that initial discussion, and from there, I don't know exactly how it's going to go. It's really a process to figure out what's the priority, and then a question for the board and the community: how do we get there?
Okay, and let's say people wanted to get involved or help or do anything with the Promise. Is there a way for the general population to help or to assist in any way?
Yeah, well, on our College Access Network, there's information on how to get trained to support more students in completing the FAFSA. And so that's an option that anybody has and can join, because the FAFSA is changing this year. Students are going to have less time to complete it to qualify for local scholarships, even though the Promise doesn't have the deadline. Community Foundation has a deadline. And so with those changes, to get more students to complete and with less time, we really need a community focused around supporting students.
So basically these are folks that would go and they'd volunteer their time to be able to come and sit with or to help students fill out their FAFSA, is what you're saying.
And they could do volunteering through the schools. I know that Mason County Central does a FAFSA completion night, so we always need more hands on deck for that. But we also need people to just encourage parents to help their students complete the FAFSA, because students can't do it without their families.
Oh, I'm well aware. I've been filling one out for a while for my family. So, and it is, they're not, I want to say that they're not difficult, but they're tedious and very attention to detail.
Yeah.
Where you have that. So, so with that, so we got people, if they want to, would they contact the local schools then to see what they can do to help, or is that something that would go through?
They can contact me and I can get them in connection.
How would they get in touch with you?
So one of the easiest ways is to call 231-239-8224. That's the Promise line, or to email me info@masoncountypromise.org.
info@masoncountypromise.org.
Yep. Or they can go on our website and message me from there, masoncountypromise.org.
Okay. And again, and this is something that all of the schools are aware of, and they know this is a thing. So that's absolutely great. So we're getting closer to the end here with our time. So I just wanted to thank you again for coming up here. You know, we had only, I think we've talked a grand total one time prior to this, and it was great coffee, just getting to know you a little bit. Actually, 2 times. We actually got our photo too. It was there.
True.
So, but no, the work that you're doing is so important. And you know, when I first thought about this radio program, it was individuals in your type of line of work where I really wanted to get in here, because you are leading such an important part of what is going to be the future for our county here. And I think thank yous cannot be said enough to you. So I appreciate that. So that's about all the time we have for today. Again, I want to thank Jody. Thank you again for joining us
Thanks
today.
for having me.
It's been absolutely great. So I'm always looking for new leaders to have on this program and give them an opportunity to share their stories. I'm interested in leaders in every aspect of the community. So if you know a leader making an impact, go to summitbusinessguides.com/leadingwestmichigan and submit their name for consideration. And if you would like to learn more about what I do to help organizations and businesses, visit summitbusinessguides.com, follow Summit Business Guides on Facebook, or just send me a note, ryan@summitbusinessguides.com. So join us next week when I'll be talking with Carolee Bradshaw from Communities Overcoming Violent Encounters, or COVE, to learn more about her journey to become a West Michigan leader.
You've been listening to Leading West Michigan with Ryan Howe, a weekly program where you hear success stories of local officials and business leaders.